Welcome, everyone, to The Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources, we sift through all the noise, and we give you the absolute core of what you need to know.
And today we are diving deep into something that has, completely reshaped global entertainment.
We're talking about Hallyu, right? The Korean wave.
Exactly. It's a cultural phenomenon that's become this economic powerhouse. Our sources give us some really clear data on just how big it is.
Okay, hit me with it. What are we talking about?
Well, when people around the world are asked what first comes to mind when they think of Korea, K-pop is the absolute winner.
I believe it.
It's held the top spot for 8 straight years, a massive 17.8% of people.
Wow, 8 years in a row. That's almost 1 in 5 people whose first thought is K-pop. That's incredible staying power. So what else is defining Korea for the world? I know K-dramas are huge, but where do they actually rank?
You'd think dramas would be next, but surprisingly, Korean food or K-food is second.
Really, food.
At 11.8%. And then come the dramas at 8.7%.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It really shows the scope has diversified way beyond just music and TV. It's like a whole lifestyle.
It is. We're talking about a full-on cultural blueprint that is being exported and adopted globally.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission today, and this is for you, the listener, is to move past the surface, the flashy music videos, and figure out how they built this global empire. We're going behind the scenes.
We want to find the core pillars of K-culture's success.
Yes, and I have to say, I am so genuinely excited to explore these systems.
And we have incredible sources today that explain exactly how the system works. It's this blend of intense dedication, some surprisingly precise science, and really powerful emotion.
It sounds like a formula.
It's a formula that is being actively studied by entertainment industries all over the world.
Okay, so those 3 pillars are, first, the incredibly intense hard work and training that forges these flawless global idols. I'm obsessed with how they move so perfectly, so we're definitely going into that engine room. Second, the addictive music and dance that hooks you instantly. And we're talking about the actual math and physics behind that perfect synchronization, which just blows my mind.
It's pretty amazing when you break it down.
And finally, the emotional stories in K-dramas that just grab your heart and refuse to let go. We're going to explore how that narrative blueprint is, like becoming the new standard for global TV.
So get ready, because the foundation is far more rigorous and far more complex than most people probably imagine.
Where do we start?
Let's start with the cost of that perfection, the trainee system.
Okay, so when I watch a K-pop performance, I always think about the passion these idols must have. And for me, passion means loving something so much. You're willing to work super, super hard for it, even when it's tough, maybe even painful.
That's a perfect way to put it.
But when you see them perform, it's more than just passion. It's edsai. It's polish. It's absolutely flawless, almost machine-like in its precision. So what is the secret sauce behind that level of world-dominating performance?
It is the K-pop trainee system. Our sources all confirm that this system is what makes the industry so unique and often so brutally efficient.
Brutally efficient.
It is. It's rigorous. And it's the foundation for creating what our sources call those meticulously crafted groups with high energy performances and that polished visual aesthetic that the whole world recognizes.
And a lot of these hopefuls are recruited when they're just kids, right? I mean, they're committing their whole adolescence to this dream.
They are. Agencies often recruit minors, sometimes as young as 12 or 13 years old. They dedicate their formative years, their entire high school experience and beyond to this intense, all-consuming preparation.
That's a huge sacrifice.
It is. The system's goal is to create technically perfect performers who are ready to debut immediately into these highly competitive global markets. They're groomed, housed, and trained for years before they ever see a real stage.
But with that much intensity and that level of dedication, especially with such young people involved, I have to imagine there's a challenging side to it. What are the major, structural and ethical issues that our sources highlight?
This is really where the glamour starts to fade and the systemic issues become very clear. While South Korea has comprehensive laws designed to protect workers, like the Labor Standards Act.
Right, there are laws on the books.
Exactly, and the Popular Culture and Arts Industry Development Act. But the research shows that enforcement of these laws is often inconsistent and, frankly, inadequate.
Why, though? Why are the laws that are supposed to protect them not always working? Why can't a trainee just, hire a lawyer and demand their rights if the system is being unfair?
And that is the absolute critical question. A key legal challenge is the ambiguous status of the trainees themselves.
What do you mean by ambiguous?
The agencies strategically classify them as interns or students or apprentices, basically anything other than full employees.
Ah, so there's a loophole.
It's a huge loophole. By doing this, they can legally circumvent the full protection the Labor Standards Act would normally provide, specifically things like maximum working hours, minimum wage, and guaranteed severance pay.
So wait, they are expected to work 12, 14, even 16 hours a day doing the job of an employee, intense singing, dancing, language classes, but they don't get the basic safety net or protections that a normal worker would deserve.
That's it in a nutshell.
That sounds like a fundamental legal imbalance that just maintains all the power with the company.
It is exactly that. And our research highlights that this legal ambiguity, combined with really weak regulatory oversight, which often relies only on investigations that are driven by complaints.
So nothing happens unless someone complains first.
Right. And that allows these harmful practices to persist. We're talking about things like excessive working hours, inadequate medical care that's often disguised as, mandatory fitness, and intense psychological pressure designed to foster this really unhealthy level of competition.
It must take enormous bravery for a young person to stand up against a massive entertainment company, a company that basically holds their entire future in its hands.
It does.
Our sources mentioned some really prominent, challenging cases that have shaped the industry's legal history. Can you walk us to the landmark one?
The one that really catalyzed change in the industry is Han Gang's 2009 lawsuit against SM Entertainment. Han Gang was a member of the group Super Junior, and he challenged his exclusive contract.
How long was it for?
It was a 13-year contract.
13 years. For a young person, that's basically signing away your entire prime career, more than a decade.
Absolutely. He argued the contract was disproportionately restrictive and was really detrimental to his health. His legal team presented a lot of evidence of sustained overwork.
What of evidence?
They argued that he was denied adequate rest for nearly 2 years straight.
2 years.
Almost 2 years. And this was despite him formally requesting health-related leave multiple times because of severe physical exhaustion and stress.
It's so hard to imagine being like 18 or 19 years old and facing a major global corporation in court. That must have taken incredible resolve. What else did the lawsuit reveal beyond just the overwork?
The case exposed some major systemic issues. One was opaque financial accounting. Trainees and even active idols were often kept completely in the dark about how revenue was truly calculated and distributed.
So they had no idea how much money was actually being made.
Or how their share was being determined. And in Han Gang's specific case, as a non-Korean member, the case revealed some discriminatory practices. For instance, he faced substantial losses from currency conversions because he was paid in Korean won instead of his native currency, and he was excluded from the same cost-sharing arrangements for foreign promotional activities that the other members had.
So this case wasn't just about the long contract or being overworked. It was about financial transparency and fair treatment inside the company structure, especially for foreign talent. What was the outcome?
Well, the Seoul Central District Court ultimately ruled in Han Gang's favor. They declared the contract invalid.
Wow.
It was a watershed moment. It really did catalyze regulatory changes that were designed to standardize contract lengths. Now they're often capped at 7 years, and to enhance financial transparency.
So it did lead to some good.
It did, but the sheer personal and professional hardship he went through during that long legal battle showed just how deeply entrenched and how resistant these corporate structures were to change.
And even after those regulatory changes, the sources say the issues didn't just disappear. We're still seeing similar struggles today, right?
That's right. The struggle continues because while the laws exist on paper, that power imbalance is still very much there.
So we're still seeing new cases.
We are. In 2024, we saw the lawsuit filed by Kira Grace Matter against JYP USA, and we saw Hani's testimony about workplace bullying at HYBE. These recent examples just demonstrate that power imbalances and cultural factors like strict hierarchy and intense competition still leave younger people in the system very vulnerable to exploitation despite the legislation.
It sounds like the industry often prioritizes commercial success and, meeting that huge global demand over the actual welfare of the idols.
That's a fair assessment.
So the companies themselves must have different philosophies about how to handle this. Our sources mention a contrast between two of the biggest agencies, JYP and YG. How do their business models reflect this whole debate?
That contrast is key to understanding the industry. The way a company approaches trainee welfare and globalization often ties directly into its fundamental business model. Our sources define two primary approaches, the system-driven model and the star-driven model.
Okay, let's start with JYP. They're known for having a really strong institutional structure, right?
Yes, JYP really exemplifies the system-driven model. Their focus is on systematic management and standardized training that can be repeated and scaled up.
A repeatable process.
Exactly. They prioritize institutionalization and long-term brand development. They're aiming for sustainable growth, a reputation for ethical governance, and market trust. The systems are designed to minimize risk from things like individual scandals or sudden departures.
Because the brand relies on the system itself, not just one person.
Precisely. It relies on the standardized, reliable quality of the system.
Okay, so they build a sturdy, repeatable process that emphasizes consistency and long-term safety.
Right.
What about YG then? They produce these massive, powerful groups like Blackpink.
YG is a great example of the star-driven model. Their strategy emphasizes visual symbols, unique concepts, and cultivating strong individual star narratives to achieve rapid, high-impact success.
So less about the system, more about the icon.
Yes. The goal here is immediate, rapid global reach, often by leveraging individual star power and high-end image branding. A great example is Blackpink's collaboration with luxury brands like Dior and Chanel to embody this idea of high-end female power.
Okay, so if the system-driven model is like the safe, sturdy, long-term house,
Yeah.
then the star-driven model must be a lot riskier. What happens if the star collapses?
And that is the primary risk. The star-driven model is incredibly vulnerable because it relies so heavily on an individual's charisma and their behavior. If a central star is involved in a scandal or if they decide to leave abruptly,
The whole thing could fall apart.
the entire corporate brand and its financial health can suffer massive immediate damage. It's very high risk, but also very high reward.
That's fascinating. So the research suggests that future companies have to figure out how to combine these two strategies.
Exactly. The most successful K-pop companies in the future, our sources suggest, will need to find a crucial balance, combining robust protective systems for sustainable growth, like JYP's approach, with innovative, powerful narratives for rapid market penetration, which is more like YG's approach.
But the foundation, no matter which model you use, it all comes back to that intense, meticulously designed training.
It does, which brings us perfectly to the performance itself, on stage.
Speaking of performance, let's move to that second pillar, the music and the dancing. I am always just amazed by the synchronization, what fans call kalgunmu, the knife-like group dance. It's so sharp, so perfect, and the transitions are flawless.
It is incredible to watch.
And for any listener who hasn't experienced it, when we say addictive, we mean something you hear or see just once, and then you want to hear or see it again and again. It's like your favorite snack that you just can't put down. So how is that level of synchronization even possible? It almost looks like they're calculating every single step with a ruler.
You just hit on the key insight, and that word calculating is perfect. Our sources reveal that K-pop choreography is not just artistic expression. It actually blends that expression with genuine scientific logic and mathematical precision.
Wait, really? Actual science?
Yes, this logical approach is what makes the dance so visually impactful, so memorable, and it significantly enhances its transmissibility, which is just a fancy way of saying its ability to go viral quickly across social media.
So you're telling me there is actual provable math
Yeah.
hidden inside the dance moves. This is where it gets really interesting for me.
There is, literally. We can look at this through the lens of physics and trigonometric functions. Let's take the popular wave move, where a motion just ripples seamlessly across a line of dancers.
Yeah, like a physical ripple effect moving across a stage.
Okay.
It looks impossible for a group of people to maintain that perfect repeating curve.
Precisely. Well, researchers analyzed the squatting wave move in Ellie Esserafim's hit song Anti-Fragile, which is right in the chorus. 5 dancers link arms and they bend and twist in sequence to create this seamless human wave.
Okay, so how does math apply to that specific move?
That movement follows the law of sine wave propagation. If you think back to your math or science class, a sine wave is that smooth, repetitive S-shaped curve.
Right, I remember that.
Using sophisticated mathematical modeling, researchers found that the synchronization, the smoothness, and the periodicity, which is the way the movement repeats perfectly at regular intervals of that group formation, can be effectively described using trigonometric functions.
No way.
The modeling proved that the dancer's motion conforms exactly to a sine wave pattern. The human body is being used to create a perfect mathematical curve in 3-dimensional motion.
That is absolutely mind-blowing. It's like dance choreography has become an exercise in applied physics. They're engineering the visual rhythm for the most pleasing effect on our eyes. What about movements performed by just one person, like those rapid spins that seem to defy gravity?
That brings us to another key concept from physics: angular momentum conservation. This is a fundamental principle that's used to create those rapid, thrilling rotations that seem to accelerate instantly out of nowhere.
Okay, that sounds really technical. Can you give us an example and maybe explain the physics a bit more simply? Like, why does pulling your arms in make you spin faster? Is that just a trick, or is it pure physics?
It is pure physics. It's the exact same reason a figure skater can spin so rapidly, or why you can speed up or slow down a spin on an office chair just by moving your arms and legs. Angular momentum has to be conserved, which means the total spinning quantity has to stay constant.
That helps. So who's a specific idol who has mastered this?
We can look at Blackpink's Lisa. Her rapid pirouette, which is known as the end spin in the dance break of How You Like That, is a perfect illustration of this.
I know that move. It's so fast.
It is. The spin lasts only 2 to 3 seconds, but in that time, she does 4 to 6 full, blazing fast rotations. The key technique here is utilizing that conservation of angular momentum. To start the spin, she pushes off. But to spin faster, she pulls her arms and legs in tight to her body. By concentrating all her mass closer to her axis of rotation, she dramatically reduces her resistance to spinning, what scientists call her moment of inertia.
So less resistance.
Exactly. And since her angular momentum has to stay the same, the reduction in that inertia forces her rotational speed, her angular velocity, to increase instantly and dramatically.
Wow. So they are literally sacrificing the outward movement of their arms for pure, breathtaking speed. It's not just accidental flair, it's performance optimized by engineering. This focus on mathematically precise, addictive content. It leads right into the industry's powerful digital strategy for going viral.
Absolutely. The addictive nature of the music and the dance is optimized specifically for social platforms. This is part of what our sources call the platformed globalization strategy.
Platforms globalization.
K-pop content is purposefully designed, from the choreography to the editing style, for platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
How does that look in practice for, say, a group that's just making their debut?
Take the group Illit, who debuted in 2024. Their debut song, Magnetic, is a perfect example of this optimization. It had a super catchy melody, that's the addictive part, and crucially, it had easy, repeatable dance moves that immediately went viral on short-form platforms like TikTok.
A dance challenge boom.
Exactly. And that rapid spread resulted in it becoming the most streamed K-pop song on Spotify in the first half of 2024.
So the dance is engineered for perfection, and the song is engineered for the challenge.
Precisely. They even strategically released a sped-up version of their Japanese single Almond Chocolate specifically to cater to short-form platforms in Japan. This shows, market-specific adaptation and a really deep understanding of how these platforms work.
And this strategy started before they even debuted, right?
It did. The group appeared in global brand campaigns before their music officially came out. This pre-marketing accelerated the formation of their global fan base instantly.
It seems like the industry itself is changing its entire production model to accommodate this global, platform-driven approach. It's moving beyond just exporting content that was made only in Korea.
That is the core of the global production shift. The model is moving from a traditional Korea-based production leads to global expansion to a much more dynamic global co-production leads to entering multiple markets strategy. It's all about sharing intellectual property and sharing risk.
That sounds like a massive logistical challenge. Who's doing this successfully?
HYBE, for example, collaborated extensively with Universal Music Group's Geffen Records to launch the multinational girl group Catzy.
Oh, I followed that whole show.
The group wasn't formed in a Korean agency basement. The entire audition process involved contestants from over 120 countries and was live-streamed on multiple platforms for the world to see.
That's interactive, fan-engaged content from the very beginning. It builds a global base instantaneously, from the U.S. to South America, everywhere.
And the production reflects that. Catzy's music is the synergistic collaboration between top U.S. producers and the sophisticated K-pop training and production system. Their second EP, Beautiful Chaos, debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200.
Number 4 is huge.
And it spent 15 consecutive weeks on the chart. This is a clear example of HYBE sharing IP ownership, risks, and revenue with a major global label as equal partners. It's setting a new standardized co-production process for North American and European markets.
So the system, refined by math, Optimized for social media and produced through multinational collaboration, it drives tangible, massive economic results.
Absolutely. This engineered, addictive content is a huge driver for physical interaction through music tourism. People aren't just streaming the content, they are traveling to experience it live.
How big is that market?
The South Korean music tourism market was estimated at USD 4.11 billion in 2024.
$4 billion. That is a staggering amount of money just from people traveling for music.
And it's projected to skyrocket to USD 21.58 billion by 2033. That's a compound annual growth rate of over 20%. And what's driving this? Concerts. Concerts alone are the single largest component, holding a 52.33% market share in 2024.
So people need to see it in person.
It shows that the demand is there not just to consume the media digitally, but to physically travel to experience the performances and the culture that creates them.
It's all about that perfect engineered performance, which leads us perfectly to stories that are engineered to capture the heart. Okay, switching gears a little, let's talk about K-dramas. When I watch them, the emotional connection just feels so deep and real. Whether it's an epic romance or a dark thriller like Squid Game, I always end up crying or feeling the tension so intensely. Why do their stories feel so authentic and so deep compared to a lot of other global TV?
This is our third pillar. K-dramas have perfected what we can call an emotional narrative blueprint. They focus intensely on deep emotional arcs, on character growth, on unspoken feelings, and on difficult moral dilemmas. They really prioritize sincerity.
So they're prioritizing heart and complex human relationships over, say, just a lot of quick plot twists or nonstop explosions.
Exactly. The focus is much less on superficial action and more on meaningful storytelling. And this approach resonates deeply with viewers all over the world who are craving emotional honesty and sincerity in their entertainment.
And it's having a real impact.
A huge impact. What's fascinating is that this narrative model is now being openly adopted as a template by global scriptwriters. Latin American and European production houses, for example, are borrowing Korean visual storytelling and their narrative arcs.
So it's not just the shows being exported, it's the way of telling stories.
It is. We even see reports that Netflix is training its international directors using Korean-style scripting modules. That demonstrates the transferability of this structure.
And their typical structure is also key, right? They often wrap up their story pretty neatly in one go.
That's a crucial structural decision, and it is absolutely intentional. The structure often allows for a complete, satisfying arc in one season, usually between 12 and 20 episodes.
Which I love as a viewer.
And this commitment to a single contained season helps preserve the storytelling integrity and the emotional pacing. It avoids the dilution and the plot stretching that comes with forcing a story over many seasons just for renewal numbers.
Let's look at some examples from our sources that really nailed this emotional resonance.
One major recent hit was the Netflix original, When Life Gives You Tangerines. This series used a nonlinear format, jumping through flashbacks and different timelines to achieve its emotional impact.
So it wasn't just a simple love story.
Not at all. It honored characters who had endured hardships, it mourned lost bonds, and it celebrated families who chose love despite all their differences. It was a huge critical and commercial success. It spent 9 consecutive weeks in Netflix's global top 10 for non-English TV shows.
That focus on perseverance and complicated family love is so compelling and really universal. But even the darkest thrillers seem to manage to hit an emotional nerve.
Absolutely. Squid Game, for instance. Season 3 tapped into these profound moral dilemmas. Even in a dark, violent thriller, the story is exploring how power exploits and corrupts the weak.
Like the character of the frontman.
Exactly. Characters like the ruthless father, the frontman, are determined to prove that even the most principled players will ultimately make the same selfish choices when they're put under extreme pressure.
And the global appeal is still there.
It's undeniable. Season 3 amassed a staggering 368.4 million watch hours and 60.1 million views in just 3 days. It's one of the most watched series in Netflix history.
And on the complete flip side of the thrillers, you have these healing stories, which are just as vital to Hallie's success.
K-dramas excel at what is called the human healing story, like the show It's Okay to Be Not Okay.
This series sparks really important global conversations about how society views mental health and differently abled people.
So it makes you think. It does. It combines this compelling narrative about internal struggles with stunning visuals and aesthetic set designs. It forces the audience to look inward while they're enjoying a really high-quality production.
Speaking of visuals, the cinematic quality is another thing that sets K-dramas apart. It often looks like a long, expensive movie, not just standard TV.
That's entirely deliberate. They invest heavily in what we call the visual and aesthetic blueprint. The cinematography is treated almost like a character itself. It uses stunning visual framing, depth of field, and symbolic motifs to drive the narrative and convey unspoken emotion.
How did Squid Game use cinematography to enhance that feeling of moral decay and control?
Squid Game used visual symmetry throughout the series, creating this sense of rigid, almost terrifying order, and it maintained a constant, unsettling color palette to lead the story's flow. The camera work also had to seamlessly integrate with realistic CGI to effectively convey the high emotional stakes and the fantastical, isolated world of the game. Another beautiful example is the musical fantasy, The Sound of Magic.
I loved the colors in that show.
The director of photography was tasked with using a very broad and specific color palette to bring the characters' emotions to life. Each main character had their own emotional tone represented visually.
Like what?
Yoon Ai, who faced hardships and misfortunes, was given a soft, light brown tone. Il-doom, who was emotionally distant and focused purely on academics, was set in a cold blue tone. And the mysterious magician Ryul was given a cooler, enigmatic greenish aurora. Color literally signifies their internal state and emotional context.
That is next-level storytelling, just through light and color. And in dramas that involve complicated concepts like parallel universes or time travel, how do the visuals help the viewer keep track of the complex plot?
Look at The King, Eternal Monarch. That drama used multiple distinct color tones to specifically define each parallel universe for the audience, so they could understand the time leaps and where the characters were. The production team invested heavily in creating detailed, contrasting sets, specific outfits, and props for each universe, including its own logo and currency.
So they built entire worlds.
They did, ensuring a fully immersive, visually distinct world for each timeline.
That brings us to fashion, which is huge in K-dramas. It's never just random clothing. It always seems to communicate something really specific.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Fashion functions as a crucial visual shorthand in K-dramas, especially in South Korea's structured, hierarchical society. Clothing reflects social rank, aspiration, and often the character's emotional journey.
So if I see a character wearing a certain tailored suit or a specific type of coat, it's not just a cool outfit. It's telling me about their secret job or their family's wealth or their ambitions.
That's a great way to put it. The garments serve as functional signs. You instantly recognize the high-end Chanel or designer suits on successful career women, or the meticulously tailored Italian suits favored by young cable heirs.
The rich heirs, right?
Or even the more casual yet expensive professorial elegance represented by, jackets over turtlenecks. In these dramas, clothing is literally categorized based on the presence or absence of markers, like jackets, ties, or specific footwear. All of it signals their status.
So we can look at an outfit and immediately understand their standing in society and their ambition without a single line of dialogue being spoken.
Absolutely. And then certain outfits become affinitive signs, which are tied permanently to a character's iconic identity or their persona.
An iconic look.
Yes. Consider Ji Chang-wook's character in the drama Healer. His all-black hooded trench coat became globally iconic. It functioned as both camouflage for his undercover work and a visual emblem of his secretive yet heroic persona. The long wool coats he wore in subdued colors, gray, navy, black, reinforced his emotionally restrained yet principled character arc.
It's all part of the story.
These choices are a richly motivated sign system. They blend function, context, and cultural resonance perfectly.
The message is clear. If you want to signify a specific doing or being, you have to dress the part. It's an act that's necessary within the story world, not just incidental window dressing. This deep dive has been incredible. We've seen that the roots of K-pop and K-dramas are so complex, built on these intense systems, scientific planning, and emotional mastery. But Hallyu is bigger than just the big hits now. What's the overall Hallyu effect on other, maybe unexpected areas of culture and business globally?
The Hallyu wave is diversifying dramatically. It's transforming from a regional export into a truly global framework. The growth in exporting broadcasting content is undeniable, and it's driven largely by global streaming services like Netflix, Rakuten Viki, and View.
So it's reaching everywhere now.
It is. In 2022, nearly half, 48.18% of finished content exports went to other regions. That means they're circulating globally in an unprecedented way, rather than just being contained within Asia.
What about the Korean film industry? Are those films maintaining their influence globally alongside all the streaming hits?
Yes, very much so. While the domestic Korean film market does face its own challenges, Korean films are thriving globally. Bong Joon-ho's Oscar winner Parasite has remained the most preferred Korean film for 5 years straight. That's incredible longevity.
5 years is a long time.
It is, and more recent hits include Exhuma, a mystery thriller, which showed a significantly higher preference in the Asia-Pacific region, demonstrating those continued cultural ties. And tying back to K-pop, performance documentaries are becoming a massive part of the film export market. For example, BTS. Yet to come in cinemas grossed $27.7 million in North America alone.
Just from a concert film.
Right. It shows that concert and documentary films featuring K-pop artists are major commercial products globally, drawing millions to theaters outside of Korea.
It seems like K-pop is paving the way for other Korean music genres, too. Are we seeing success beyond the traditional idol groups?
We are. The massive shadow of traditional K-pop is finally lifting a bit, which is allowing indie artists to gain global attention without having to rely on that traditional, intense K-pop trainee infrastructure. This is a real sign of market maturity.
That's a huge shift in the ecosystem. So who are some of these breakthrough indie artists who are finding success without the big four agency structure?
Bands like Wave to Earth and the dream pop group Seisumi are gaining major global traction. Wave to Earth, for example, sold out all 22,000 tickets on their month-long U.S. tour in 2023.
Wow, 22,000 tickets.
They had to extend their shows. They now boast 7.24 million monthly Spotify listeners, which is comparable to many popular K-pop groups.
And a major factor in their global reach has to be language choice, right? They're clearly targeting Western markets.
Yeah, exactly. Our sources note that bands like Wave to Earth and Seisumi write most of their lyrics exclusively in English. This is part of a broader trend in the 2020s where artists, including those in K-pop, R&B, and indie rock, are opting to perform in English to directly cater to the expanding markets in the US and Western Europe. It just accelerates their acceptance.
Now let's talk about the K-food phenomenon. Since food was ranked second in global association with Korea, it's obviously critical to the Hallyu brand.
K-food is booming, and the statistics are massive. It ranks first as the most popular content category at 49.1%, and it's the most desired product to buy at 66.2% globally.
So people want to watch it, and then they want to buy it.
And the export trends underscore this popularity, particularly where convenience foods that fit the modern global lifestyle.
What are the biggest export winners in the processed food sector, and why are they so successful?
Instant noodles. They are the largest processed food export item, valued at a remarkable $950 million in 2023. That's a 24.4% year-on-year growth.
Nearly $1 billion in instant noodles. Why are noodles, in particular, seeing such a massive surge?
It's a combination of convenience, shelf stability, and cultural visibility through dramas and films. Noodles are portable, they have a long shelf life, and they appeal perfectly to global convenience culture.
That makes sense.
The same logic applies to instant rice products and dried laver, the seaweed used for snacks and gimbap, which also saw significant export surges in 2023. Products like frozen gimbap succeed because they translate a complex, traditionally fresh Korean food into an easily stored, globally shippable, and quickly reheatable format.
So the popularity of products like instant rice and laver snacks shows that people aren't just eating Korean food in high-end restaurants. They're stocking it in their home pantries and making it part of their daily life.
And this movement is driven by both high-end culinary innovation and these consumer-driven viral trends. In the fine dining world, New York City is the overwhelming center for Michelin-listed Korean fine dining. Places like Atomix and Jungsik are setting the high bar for modern Korean cuisine.
And on the consumer side, we have those massive viral food phenomena driving consumption.
Yes, exactly. The frozen gimbap fad in the U.S., driven largely by TikTok and social media challenges, and the fact that bibimbap was the most searched recipe globally on Google in 2023.
The most searched recipe in the world.
In the world. It shows how consumer-driven word of mouth is influencing popularity. This suggests that understanding what spreads among consumers and how, not just looking from the supplier's perspective, is key to establishing flexible strategies for food exports.
Finally, we should probably talk about how Hallyu is lifting up traditional Korean culture and heritage alongside all the pop hits. It shows the wave has really deep roots.
This is where the depth of the Korean wave really shows its resilience. Traditional institutions are finding these innovative ways to connect with a modern global audience. The National Museum of Korea, for instance, set a record with over 6 million visitors in a single year recently.
6 million people.
And it was driven by these innovative concepts that make history accessible and fun.
What kind of innovative concepts are drawing in those kinds of crowds?
They created the incredibly popular Room of Quiet Contemplation, which invites visitors into these solitary encounters with just two gilt bronze pensive bodhisattva statues. It's fundamentally redefining how quiet, traditional culture can be experienced in a museum.
That sounds beautiful.
They also embraced playfulness with a dress like a museum exhibit contest, allowing people to transform themselves into ancient Silla-era gold relics and share it online.
That perfectly merges history with modern social media performance and fandom. I love that.
And that blend of folklore, tradition, and global pop culture is exactly what happened with the huge animated hit K-pop Demon Hunter.
Well, I've heard about this.
It's a supernatural action comedy that amassed over 500 million views on Netflix, earned 5 Grammy nominations, and became one of Netflix's most watched animated films. And it achieved this by integrating distinctly Korean cultural touchstones, K-pop fandom, food, and native folklore into a global cinematic hit.
So they use traditional elements like the tiger and magpie folk paintings and the traditional scholar's gat hat, but they frame them within a K-pop narrative universe. It proves that the heritage is really rich intellectual property.
It proves that the country's once marginal culture has truly entered the global mainstream, and that K-pop is viable as long-term intellectual property that extends far beyond just music. It is a full ecosystem of cultural export. #tag outro with Hosha.
What an incredible deep dive. We went from the intense pressure of the trainee system all the way to the literal physics of the stage. Let's quickly recap the 3 core takeaways we covered today for you, the listener.
First, K-pop's incredible performance is built on that high-stakes, structurally complex trainee system. This system, despite its ethical and legal challenges, meticulously crafts global stars who are ready for the world stage, with future strategies focusing on balancing this intensity with better, more ethical governance.
Second, the addictive music and the perfect synchronization are literally organized using scientific principles. We saw how dance moves follow mathematical laws, like the sine wave propagation in Ellie SRFM's choreography, making the performance both visually stunning and strategically optimized for global sharing and virality.
And finally, K-dramas win globally because they prioritize deep, complex human emotion, character growth, and moral dilemmas over simple action. This focus on sincerity, enhanced by sophisticated cinematography and fashion used as narrative shorthand, makes their stories feel authentic and universal, a blueprint now being adopted by global scriptwriters.
Hallyu is clearly transforming from just a regional export phenomenon into a global framework. The K-pop training model is now being used to launch multinational groups like CATSI, proving the system is transferable and scalable.
And the success isn't just in entertainment, it's in commerce. It's driving billion-dollar tourism markets and selling everything from films and indie music to frozen gimbap. Innovation is merging with institutional development and a strategic, almost scientific brand narrative.
So here's our final provocative thought for you to chew on. We have seen today how K-pop groups use physics and mathematics to perfect their synchronized movements, and how K-dramas use visual symmetry and fashion to tell stories of social hierarchy and emotion. If cultural content is now being scientifically designed for maximum global impact and addictive consumption, blending the highest levels of art with verifiable engineering, what does this mean for the future of entertainment worldwide? And what new forms of K content that perfectly blend story and science should we expect to see next?